Batman 103, James Tynion the Fourth, Gilliam March with Carlo Pugilane on the art. I suspect you will have opinions on that combination of artists.
I mean, because it's Pagulayan for most, or the first like half, 2/3 of the issue, and then there was a point where, cause I hadn't realized that Gilliam March was on this issue. I don't think, because when I saw the credits page, I saw Carlo Pagulayan and Danny Mickey, who is, I think, maybe his inker, and then didn't. And I thought, okay, 2 artists, that's fine. But I didn't register me to look any further to see Gilliam March.
Yeah.
And then I got to the art. I was like, this looks suspiciously bad. Looks suspiciously Gilliam Marchy bad. And then I was like, oh, god damn it, that's why.
Yeah, so Ghostmaker, we get more of the flashback with Tim and young Bruce and their discussion about, caring being a weakness and Bruce being sentimental about his parents and them both training with all the best masters and combat experts in the world, blah, blah, blah. Kind of the same thing. I'm not super into the whole flashback stuff.
Yeah, still kind of hate it.
It's kind of, it's this weird, funny thing that what I said about the last issue is that I don't like this Ghostmaker backstory stuff, but I like everything that they're doing in Gotham around it. So I'm still kind of excited for the ongoing stuff. It's kind of like a mediocre episode of a TV show that I really love, where there's still a lot of character beats that I really like and what it's setting up for future, stories and things like that. And I maintain that here, like having Oracle still talk to Batman is really cool. One of the key plot elements of this, which is basically one big fight, or well, it's 2 big fights, I'll say. You get Batman and Ghostmaker on the roof, and then eventually you've got Clown Hunter and Harley in her apartment, and then they kind of merge. And as this is going on, so Bruce and Ghostmaker's basically saying, hey, within like 5 minutes of arriving, I solved these 3 things. And he talks about these different crimes. There's a serial killer who was going under the radar because he didn't have a gimmick, he wasn't wearing a costume, he was just an old-fashioned serial killer. There's corrupt judges, and there was a shipment of arms and things like that. And he's talking about all this stuff. And there's a great beat towards the end. And again, this is talking about the world of Gotham and everything it's doing that I love. When Batman basically says, I knew about all these things, right? So that serial killer, and we see a big panel of Cass wearing the Bat logo, and she's got the Bat ears, right? We've got full-on Batgirl Cass outfit. She was tailing him. She was watching to try and find out where the rest of his victims were, to sort of get confirmation for the families. It wasn't going unnoticed and it wasn't going to let him kill anyone else. That was very clear. And then, with the arms, I swapped them out. There was no real ammunition. The whole idea was to, lead to this big international culprit who's, funding all these guys. It was about catching the bigger fish. It was all this strategy. And I like that payoff to that earlier debate. I thought that was solid.
Yeah, I like the idea that Ghostmaker thinks he's, this big hotshot solving all these things, and he's so much better than Bruce, and, that's why he's coming in and cleaning up Gotham for him. And it's like he has no actual tactical awareness despite all his training. He just deals with he deals with the symptoms, not the cause, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't help that I already didn't really care for Ghostmaker in the rest of the issue. So undermining him here, it's not like it kind of just made him even less interesting than he already was. That he's not even that smart.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's I don't think it's specifically saying he's not that smart. I don't think that's... I mean, maybe that's how it comes across, but I don't think that's the intention. I think the intention is more... because I think the whole point is that he was kind of making Batman look bad, and then the point is, no, Batman's actually not being an idiot here. He knows what he's doing.
I will retract the word smart and replace with the word wise.
Fair. So there's a lot of banter with, Harley and Clown Hunter and whatnot. I mean... It's a little wordy as an issue, but it's a fairly quick read because of the premise of it, which is just these 2 fights that kind of then merge. And the issue ends with Ghostmaker. He's actually knocked out everyone in the room basically with darts. In the last page, it's Batman himself who gets darted. And I think from a structural point of view, I think this arc is very well structured. I think this issue being a big fight to prove the sort of the equalness in combat for the most part, them sparring as they're doing so, all these other things. I think from a structural point of view of the arc, this issue makes a lot of sense. The problem is that I don't think either of us are really liking Ghostmaker or are really buying what he is, and Just see him as kind of a throwaway villain. And maybe by the end of the arc, there'll be a point that's made with him that'll say, maybe it was worth making the point, so whatever. But at least right now, we're not really feeling him. So that's the big problem with the issue. But I think from an objective, like, take out how we feel about the villain, I think from a structural point of view, the arc is actually telling its story in a very solid way. We just really don't care about the villain.
I agree with most of that. I do agree. You know, structurally, it's kind of fine. I think the other big problem with the storytelling, there is not just I dislike Ghostmaker's character, is the art. Frankly, I think switching to March.
I was talking about structure. What part of that meant I wasn't?
This is storytelling still, and in comics, the art is a big part.
I'm not disputing that. I was talking about the structure of the writing. Nothing about that implies I was forgiving the art in any way, shape, or form.
No, fine. I will concede the structure. You
presented that as if it was a contradictory point. I'm like, no, I didn't say anything that you're contradicting. Wait, shut up.
I was broadening the point. I said as a story in the storytelling format.
It could just be a new point. Just start a new point. It doesn't have to be. Just go on, say your thing.
Well, yeah, Gillimarch is terrible, basically. It distracts me. Like I say, there was a point in this issue where, and I think this fundamentally harms the story to a point where, like I said, I wasn't really feeling Ghostmaker, but I'm like, it's fine. I get what it's doing. I'm not really enjoying it, but it's okay. And then it got to the it's when it switches to Harley, basically. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, this took a big step down. And all of a sudden, it's actually distracting me to read it. Not just, okay, I'm not really feeling these ideas of what he's doing in the writing. It's like I'm actually struggling with the enjoyment of reading it now as well, which severely limits the impact that the art can have, even by the end. Well, maybe I'll like Ghostmaker a bit more, and I'll go, well, maybe the art was a little bit better than I thought. But right now, it's not helping itself with things like this. I mean, I don't like it when you have two artists on a book at the best of times. It's bad enough when they're very different styles, and the book does suddenly switch quite drastically because it's really quite clean at the start. Like if you look at the title page and look at it, Batman doing that punch there, he's basically clean shaven, the big square jaw, it's such all this clean stuff. And then you go to the last page and look at Bruce as he's being darted, and it's this really scratchy thing. His chest is everywhere. Like it's really it's not even it's not even close to melding in styles, which really hurts the kind of the impact of the issue overall, I think, for me.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with that. I feel like there's only so many ways we can talk about the mixing of two artists in a single book.
No, there is, but I say we talked about it done better than this for sure. This is like it felt particularly egregious to me because it was there are some times where I don't even really feel it. I mean, even last issue of Batman had two artists on, but the switch wasn't as bad. It was only a few pages at the end. I was like, okay, I can see it, but it's not. It wasn't like as I was reading it, I didn't feel like, oh, this is suddenly so different. Whereas this one, as soon as I turned the page, I was like, this is completely different. Like, it feels like I've just picked up a different book entirely.
Yeah, but that is nothing to do with the change and everything to do with who the change is to, right? If this is because it's Gillen March. It doesn't matter who the first artist was. There was no scenario in which switching to Gillen March halfway through the book was not going to be jarring and annoying.
No, that's fair, but then I think that's down to editorial to make sure when they're finished, because usually when they're doing this, it's because, well, okay, one artist doesn't have enough time to finish the whole book, so we'll pull in someone else to do some pages, and they'll do these pages, and we'll get it out on time that way. I think that it's editorial's responsibility to choose artists with complementary styles. If they're going to do that, if they insist on it happening. And this is a particularly egregious case where they didn't.
I'll disagree. I knew everything you were going to say about this, so I'm just sitting here going through the motions, waiting for you to say the same thing you always say about this topic.
Well, I'll keep saying it when they, until they stop doing it.
So jarring. Ruined the book for me. Can't focus on the art.
Also, that last page is particularly ugly. Like, you know, like Gillimarch is not my favorite of the best of times, but that last page, I don't know what is going on with Batman's chest.
Nah, the body proportion in that last page is by far the worst thing about the art in this issue. It's all over the place because I mean, the rest of the pages with Gillimarch art, they're kind of vary from like baddish to mediocre, but versus like a lot of what he's done on this book since Tynan's run started. Like this is by no means even close to the worst of his stuff. But the last page sticks out as being kind of some of his worst. It's still not a Riddler spine thing or whatever that was.
And I think that's part of why I am harping on the jarringness of this issue in particular, because I agree that last couple of pages aside, I don't think this is Gillimarch's worst work. I don't think this is even his worst work on this Batman run. But it's just the change in style is so drastic from the clean lines that we had before that it sticks out more. Even though it's technically better than some of his previous work, I'd notice it more in this issue than I did in some of those other ones.
All right, just rate this and put me in my misery, will you?
It's a 5.
I'm conflicted. I think from a structural point of view, I really appreciate that it does to spend the whole issue doing the fight, because the last issue built up to two things. It built up to the Clown Hunter coming after Harley, and it built up to the first proper confrontation between Batman and Ghostmaker. And I appreciate that both things weren't resolved within 2 or 3 pages, and then quickly moved on to like more stuff. I think actually letting the fight breathe for a whole issue actually brings across the idea that Ghostmaker, even though he's always kind of lost by the sounds of it whenever they've fought in the past, is at least good enough to go toe-to-toe with Batman for at least a set number of time. So I think it's telling its story completely fine. From a writing point of view, it's doing everything fine. Except for the fact that I just don't like the villain and I don't like the trope of he's in the backstory stuff. That's partially personal taste. I do think it is a kind of a weak. I hate to say lazy because writing's hard, but it is one of those things where I'm like, really, it's like a love triangle.
It feels like an easy fallback trope.
Stop it! Right, the number of times Batman's had someone who we've never heard of be a part of his past show up again.
Do you know why it feels lazy? And again, we're not saying writing is lazy. I'm sure that he works hard. They all do. But the reason it feels lazy is because it takes so little effort to slot someone in the backstory and go, oh, look, they were just there the whole time. As opposed to constructing it from scratch in a present day and building up that relationship. It feels like it takes a lot more work to do.
Yeah, but it's far more satisfying when they do that. So it's a shame they don't do it more often. So I'll give it 5.5. Higher than you.
All that for a 5.5.
Well, I'm a complex beast. What can I say?